Hello, and welcome to Living a Graceful Life. I'm your host, Denise Medved, and I'm also the creator and founder of the Ageless Grace Brain Health Program worldwide. I'm here to remind you that it's never too late to begin making choices to create the life you want to live. And those choices affect us physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. In previous episodes, we've talked about some of those different aspects of ourselves and how choosing to live a graceful life that's more pleasurable, more balanced, more elegant affects each of those parts of us. We're going to focus in this episode on your emotional self, your brain, and what that has to do with your emotions. So first of all, the emotions are regulated by the limbic system of the brain. And that includes things like the amygdala and the hypothalamus and the hippocampus, big words. But what it basically means is that regulates our emotions through chemicals that the brain produces, and it allows us to look at an event or a situation, an interaction with a person, and assign an emotional value to that event or that person or that thing that is happening in our lives. So always we do have choices about our emotions. It's easy to think we don't have choices, that, oh no, that's just how I feel. She upset me so, or he made me so angry, or I couldn't believe what he did and it's just not fair. And we think those emotions have nothing to do with us, that it's caused by someone from outside. Event that causes those emotions, and it's our brain that assigns a value to that, and we can train our brains. We can change our brains. Wonderful new information in the last decade has told us that we can actually change our brains regardless of our age. And not just the brain, but the entire central nervous system. And that's specifically done through physical movement. So, that physical movement can affect parts of the brain, and it can cause us to start to change our attitudes, our emotions, or notice our emotions and decide how we're going to regulate those emotions. So one of the things that happens when we are regulating emotions is that neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine are released, and then that is what allows us to evaluate a situation and decide how we feel about it. Now notice that I just touched my heart area, and we tend to assign emotions to here, that it comes from the heart. And yes, we can be very sincere about something, and we can be touched and moved by something, and it can come from our heart, meaning that it's part of us, it's deep inside of us, it's something that we might feel passionate about or moved by. But that's not actually where the emotions come from. They don't come from the muscle that is called the heart, where the heartbeat is. So how can we affect the emotions? Well, one of the things that controls mood or emotion is the vagus nerve. And I recently did a workshop with my friend and colleague Lana Gelb on the vagus nerve, and we called it "What Happens in Vegas Stays in Vegas." And of course, the vagus nerve is very popular right now as a topic of conversation because it controls so much of our bodily functions, including our heart rate and our heartbeat. So it also controls mood. And that's a fascinating thing. So I'm going to show you a couple things that we can do to affect the vagus nerve, but more importantly, vagal tone. They, meaning scientists, have associated vagal tone with better emotions, with a better well-being sense of feeling. And so vagal tone can be stimulated by a few sort of fun and silly activities, actually. But one that's very interesting is regulating vagal tone or measuring vagal tone by comparing your heartbeat rate along with your breath, inhalation, and exhalation. So when you breathe in, your heart rate tends to increase. And when you breathe out, your heart rate tends to decrease or slow down. And so what helps vagal tone is the bigger the difference is between the heart rate when you breathe in and the heart rate when you breathe out, the higher your vagal tone is. Fascinating, isn't it? So we can do a little game. We can breathe in and breathe out. And for those of you who've heard me speak before, you know that sometimes, and what's really best for us, is that inhale is half as long as the exhale. Or another way of saying that, of course, is that however long you breathe in, you want your exhale to be twice as long as that breath. So you could count. For example, when you're just beginning, maybe breathe in for the count of 4, hold it for the count of 7, 6, and then release for the count of 8. So let's just practice that together. Hold it for a few seconds, and then release twice as long as you breathed in. Breathe in maybe for the count of 4. Hold for the count of 6 or 7. Release to the count of 8. Let's do that again. Breathe in for the count of 4. Hold for the count of 6 or 7. Exhale for the count of 8. Now we only did that 3 times, but you might sense already calmness, peacefulness, a settling in or a being aware of the moment. And that is one way of not only toning the vagal nerve, and of course we would use our stopwatch on our Fitbit or our Apple Watch to time what was our heart rate on the inhale, what was our heart rate on the inhale, what's the difference. But not only were you stimulating vagal tone, you were also literally calming your emotions. Breathing is a wonderful way to regulate or calm the emotions. And so you can do that in many, many ways. You can do it seated, you can do it standing, you can do it as you're walking. Maybe being out in nature is calming and peaceful to you. Or maybe listening to soft music is calming and peaceful to you. So if you do that breathing at the same time that you're doing something that you find soothing, it can calm you from a place of maybe anxiety or worry or tension or anger or being upset. It can calm those things down. I'm sure many times you've heard someone say, well, when you're really upset or you can't think clearly, just take a few deep breaths. Well, that's good advice. That's what we just did, and you can see how it actually works to calm not only the limbic system, which is where all of those things take place that control our emotions, but it also calms the nervous system. And it calms our circulatory system and our respiratory system. So another thing that we can do to stimulate that vagal nerve or stimulate vagal tone, which helps us regulate and control emotions, is to gargle. And when Lana and I did our workshop, it was very funny because we had everybody take a sip or two out of their water bottle. Mine's right here, but guess what? It's empty. So that we could actually take some water and gargle. So no one can see you right now. If you happen to have a water bottle nearby, you can put a little water in your mouth, tilt your head back, and gargle for as long as you possibly can. Now, a fun time to do this, I think, is when I'm brushing my teeth in the mornings. I brush my teeth, I rinse my mouth, I gargle. Maybe I brush a little more, rinse my mouth, I gargle. But gargling anytime you take a drink is a wonderful way to stimulate that vagus nerve. Now, another thing that can help stimulate the vagus nerve is singing. Singing, it's contracting the muscles in the back of the throat. And of course, singing is a happy circumstance. And usually we're singing about something silly or uplifting or funny or romantic perhaps. But the best songs to sing to lift our mood are songs that we learned when we were children. I don't know about you, but I went to camp when I was a little girl, and in 1 week of camp, I must have learned 100 camp songs. And there's songs that are fairly universal. Many people know them around the world. And of course, some of them are simple, like Row, Row, Row Your Boat, or Old MacDonald Had a Farm, or 1,001 what? Bottles of beer on the wall, 1,000 bottles of iced tea on the wall, soda pop. Ants go marching in, 1 by 1, 2 by 2, 3 by 3. There's so many fun songs. And then there's She'll Be Coming Round the Mountain. There's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. So many. And many of them are associated with nursery rhymes. So when you sing one of those kids' songs, it's fun. It brings us to a place of happiness usually, because usually not only were we singing, but we were in a social situation with our peers, our family, or our friends, because that's another thing that has to do with not only psychological well-being, but with mood and emotions. Social situations are very important to lift the mood, especially during times of isolation or times of illness. It's very important for you to make certain that you have some kind of social interaction, not maybe with just one person, but with maybe 2 or 3. It's very important each week to schedule social interaction events into your life. They may be virtual on things like Zoom or a Zoom platform. They may also be in person with people that you're close to, or with your family, or even with your pets. Do you know how it moves and elevates your mood to go outside and play a nice game of catch, ball, frisbee with your dog, if you have a dog, or to just walk with your cat outdoors if it's an indoor-outdoor cat, or to pet that cat or play with it with a toy inside your home. Those playful interactions with a pet, a person, a friend are really valuable and important to elevating mood. So yes, we don't want to negate any of our emotions. When you're feeling grief or sadness, pain, loss, anger, upset, acknowledge that those emotions exist. Honor them. We're not trying to say suppress them or ignore them or pretend like they don't exist or cover them up. I grew up in the South, and I was sort of taught as a young girl to always be pleasant and smile and happy, and not to cause any conflict, and not to talk back to someone or lose my temper. And so very often, quite frankly, when I was young, I hid my emotions. I would be upset about something and I'd go, oh, well, that's nice. I can see how you feel that way. But I wouldn't say how I felt. So acknowledging our emotions is very important to being emotionally in balance and harmony. And yet at the same time, one emotion can sit by another emotion. You can have many emotions almost at the same time, and certainly during the same afternoon or the same day or the same week. You can feel grief and sadness, and you can still laugh with a friend at a joke, or giggle over something silly that your dog did, or maybe perhaps feel loving towards someone in your family or one of your friends, even though you are feeling a sense of grief. What's important is to not let one emotion override all the other emotions, right? One emotion takes over and it can cause us to be crazy, excited, almost out of control. It can cause us to be anger and lose that control. It can cause us to be so depressed and anxious that our life looks hopeless. So we can choose which of our emotions we want to accent, or which one we want to focus on, which one we want to expand and make greater, which one we want to honor but not allow to take over the rest of those emotions. When I was a little girl, we also, my mom said things like, use your inside voice, use your outside voice. And that's similar to the emotions. Which one do I want to have the strongest, loudest, most powerful voice right now, right? So curiosity actually is the voice of one of my emotions right now. Curiosity about sharing these things, about hearing your input at the end of the show content. Using emotions for the positive aspects of even a difficult situation can be an important skill to develop, and we can develop those skills, absolutely. So another thing that might stimulate the vagus nerve is yawning. Yawning. So I don't know about you, but when somebody yawns or when I pretend to yawn, very often what happens is I start to actually yawn. So I can't see all of you. You can see me, but you can't see each other right now. So let's yawn together, right? Maybe even act it out a little bit. That was a real yawn there at the end. So like I said, that yawning situation can help with stimulating that vagal tone that helps with our social interactions, our emotions, and our psychological well-being. And of course, psychological well-being is something that we want in balance. We don't want it to be too much of one thing or another. Now, it can be a lot of one thing at certain times, but not all the time throughout the day or all the time throughout the week or the month. We want to be able to regulate that balance so that we feel like we have a pleasurable life. And why do I use that word and emphasize it? Because grace or gracefulness is described as pleasure, more pleasurable moments in your life. It's also described as elegance of movement, and not only physical movement, but moving through, navigating your life. How do you start in the morning? Can you navigate through the obligations and responsibilities that you have at the beginning with a pleasure-filled emotional attitude? I know we can make choices, absolutely, and pretty much every moment is a choice. It can be dreary and miserable. You can be tired. You can be exhausted. You didn't get enough sleep last night. Everything went wrong this morning when you were getting ready for work or for going out into the public world. And then you can choose. Are you going to let those emotions of anxiety and tension and stress rule your day? Or are you going to let those moments that happened, how long? 10 minutes? 30 minutes earlier, be the ruling emotions that guide the rest of your 10, 12 hours that you are awake? And I don't want to sound like Pollyanna or someone who has rose-colored glasses, but pretty much everything that has to do with our physical well-being, how we nourish ourselves, how we move, how we treat our bodies, our brain, how we stimulate it, how we activate it, our emotions, which ones we choose to be the overriding emotions or the next emotion that we want and choose to feel, our spirit, how we nourish that spirit, our spiritual selves, how we relate or connect to a higher power, something greater, something not just inside of us, but outside of ourselves that moves through us, around us. Or maybe even our overall well-being has to do with choice, choice, choice. We always have a choice about those things. We may not be able to choose where we live. We may not be able to choose how tall we are or what color our hair is, although we women know that we can probably choose that. We may not be able to choose lots of things in our life that are just beyond our control. But we can choose the things in general that affect us physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And one of those things is our emotions. I mentioned, what's the next emotion that I'd like to feel? So if I feel myself being overwhelmed by an emotion, I say, well, is that a valid emotion? Is this really true? And if I can say, yes, this is really true. I wasn't being dramatic. I wasn't blowing it out of proportion. This is the emotion I'm feeling. I want to acknowledge that and honor it. But then I might say, and do I want to feel this way all day or even for an hour or two? And I can say yes or no. And if I say no, I don't want to continue feeling like that, then I can choose another emotion. Maybe it's gratitude. I don't know about you, but at night one of my practices is to keep a gratitude journal. And I like to write down what I'm grateful for that happened that day or that I noticed that day. And I don't know about you about this either, but some days when I write in my gratitude journal at night before I go to bed, all I can think of is, I'm glad this day is over. But guess what? I am glad. That's something to be grateful for. Or I'm glad I have a bed to climb into tonight, that I can sleep in a bed. I'm glad I have blankets. I'm glad I'm not cold. I'm glad what? There are always things to be grateful for. And when we're grateful, that is an emotion. That is a sensation that comes over us that makes us feel more peaceful, more calm, more balanced in life. Looking at, this was a horrible day. This happened. And guess what? Also, this good thing, this positive comment, this special person, this nice experience, this pleasant moment in my life happened. And then you start to look at those, and suddenly that day that you thought was so horrible also has some good balance to it, some good textures that were woven through the tapestry of that day, right? So I hope when emotions are big ones that you will look at them almost as if you're outside of the picture frame. It's a phrase my husband loves to use. He said, you can't see what's going on because you're inside the picture frame. Step out of the picture frame for a moment and look at what's going on and decide how you feel about it, how long you want to feel that way, whether it's ecstatic or depressed, and if you have a choice about changing those emotions. So I vote for those wonderful neurotransmitters, serotonin and dopamine, which can help us to have more positive experiences, for example. And we all know about endorphins and how they're released when we do physical movement. When we move, when we run, when we jog, when we jump rope, when we do things like that that are involving our body, playing tennis, a team sport, whatever, then endorphins are released, and those are sort of happy chemicals that make us feel really good in the moment, or for the next few moments, or even maybe for the whole day or the next day. So movement is very important also to regulating your emotions. I have noticed in my own self that when I'm feeling anxious about something, or my monkey mind is going around and round and noodling at a problem that I can't seem to solve and it's stressing me out, I can stop, put on a song, and just dance in my living room, dance in my kitchen. And if I do that for 3 or 4 minutes, it's amazing how it changes my mood. it certainly makes me laugh at myself, right? If nothing else. So just spontaneous dancing can be a wonderful way to elevate your mood and your emotions and call in some emotions that you weren't feeling a few minutes before, some more positive and uplifting emotions. In every episode, I also show you a tool that you can use seated in a chair so that it works in every room, anywhere that you've got a chair. You don't need a lot of space. You don't need to go to a gym. You can do this right in your own home, wherever you have a chair. I call it the Goldilocks chair, the one that's just right for you. Not too big, not too hard. This one's just right for me. I like it. I like that it has arms, but it doesn't have to have arms. It can also be a chair with no arms. But ideally, your feet touch the floor. And the whole point of this chair and physical movement at the same time is that when we do something we might normally do standing up, it engages our brain and calls our brain into action to figure out and have a conversation with the body about how to do this in a seated position rather than standing. So we do this to music because that also stimulates the brain and elevates the emotions. And we also do it barefoot or in sock feet because there are 7,000 nerve endings that go to that brain and speak to all the parts of the body so that we can stimulate those nerve endings not by bearing weight or jumping up and down, but simply by moving our feet around the floor, on the floor of the carpet. So we're going to do a tool today called Express Yourself. How's that for emotions, right? Emotions we express, absolutely. And 2 or 3 things that I always think of when I'm going to express, which includes my center piece right here, this breastbone, and it radiates out into the top 2 ribs and the collarbones, extends out my arms and into my fingertips, and it includes my shoulder blades in the back. So all of this is involved in Express Yourself. And one of the things I think of when I'm attempting to think of movements for that part of my body is professions, like firemen climb ladders, or typists used to type on a typewriter, or keyboardists, or someone maybe playing a musical instrument with their hands and arms, or someone maybe using a laser pointer to point something out, someone maybe painting a wall. All of those things are professions. But another one is just fun movements that express emotions. So we're going to emote together. So I'm going to put some music on right now. And we're going to do a little emoting. All right, so we're going to start off again. Remember, you're using your whole chest and back. And we're going to do surprise. I'm so surprised. Oh my gosh. Oh, I can't believe it. It's a surprise party for me? Oh, you're kidding. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Or how about exultation? I just won the lottery. Oh, I'm so happy. Yay, I just won the lottery. That's awesome. Stop. I don't want you to talk like that. Stop right now. Hear me? You stop. No, I'm saying you stop that talking. You stop that bad attitude. I want to see some positive attitudes. Or how about, oh, I'm so afraid. Oh no. Oh, that scary movie on TV. That scares me. Oh no, I don't want to watch that part. No, don't let me watch. Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. Or how about peekaboo? Surprise, peekaboo, where are you? Maybe talking to a child or a little silly thing. Oh, come on. Surprise, peekaboo, hide. Using those arms in different ways. Or how about, all right, we won. Our team is the best. Go team. All right, come on, yay. Cheer for your team. Yes, that's an exultation, emotion of winning. Or how about, oh no, my team is losing. How could you do that? How could you have made that mistake? How could you have gotten and let them get ahead of you, right? Or how about, oh, I am so angry. You have no idea how angry I am. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm mad. I am mad. I'm so angry with you. Oh, that annoys me, that really makes me upset. Yes, it does. I'm not kidding. Or how about, oh, that is so beautiful. I love that. That is just awesome. You just touched me by giving me that big bouquet of flowers. I love those flowers. They're just beautiful. They're precious. Thank you so much. So those are some emotions from Express Yourself. And if you want to know more about the tools of Ageless Grace, you can visit our website, agelessgrace.com, and we have all kinds of free information and video clips, and we also have DVDs, flashcards, playbook, and workshops that you can get. And you can also access those, or many of those, at the winwinwomen.com store. So thank you for being here and living a graceful life, and thank you for joining me. Remember, it's never too late to begin to make choices to create the life that you want to live.